What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave, and I am excited to bring another very cool deck tech video to you this wonderful Monday, and that is going to be, wait for it, drum roll please, Amber Steel Aggro. Is it still song heavy? Yes, it is still song heavy. Songs are super necessary when it comes to Amber Steel. They're some of the best cards in that particular color combination, but we are not playing Cinderella or Ariel, so stick around to see what that deck list looks like without them. I think it's still super effective, comes to the board very aggressive in the early game, and has the steel cards to go ahead and back that up with some pretty sweet removal. So I think it's a pretty effective deck list. I'm very excited about it. I think Amber Steel Aggro could even be the better way to build than Steel Song in the current meta with the way things have been shaking out, but I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think traditional Steel Song is the better option? And as always, love to give a big shout out to our Patreons who make everything on the channel possible, make my life doing this a heck of a lot easier. You guys are amazing. I could not do this without you. Anybody who wants to check out the Patreon and all of the cool free stuff that you get with it, there is a link in the description below. But without any further ado, let's talk about Amber Steel Aggro. So the first card we're playing, and this is going to be a 3 of, is the Queen Royal Monarch. I think the Queen is really good, particularly in the current meta. It's a great answer for Daisy Duck. The shift on 2 with the big Queen who has a 4 attack is fantastic, or if you're just questing in with her and giving something else that boosted attack is also great. So she is really quite versatile. I think the Queen is great. Obviously, even a 2/2 character aggro decks are going to have a hard time dealing with. If you're in that Steel Song mirror match, having 2 defense characters is a little scarier, but I do think this deck can come to the board fast enough to keep up with Steel Song, and typically Whole New World is going to be really good for you if they play it. Next up, another shift line. We have Robin Hood, 1 cost, 2/2 quest for 1. Same deal as the Queen, going ahead and giving me that option to shift into the Big Robin, which is going to happen on 3. That shift is on 3. Then, just to keep up with some of the aggro decks in the meta right now, we are playing 4 Daisy Duck Donald's Date. I've seen some of these lists on 3, but those were more Steel Song traditional, whereas this we're going hard into the aggro selection. But we've got a 1 cost uninkable 1/4 character having a 4 defense character on turn 1 that quests for 2 is absolutely nutty. I'm not sure what they were thinking. I've heard people say this card is more poisonous to the meta than Diablo. I don't know if I totally agree with that. Whenever this character quests, each opponent is going to go ahead and reveal the top card of their deck. That portion of it is non-optional. They then have the choice, if it is a character, to put it into their hand or to leave it on top of their deck. I don't know why they would ever leave it on top of their deck. Taking free card draw always seems like the right choice, but if it is not a character, they're going to have to put it on the bottom of their deck. So if your opponent is on a non-character focused deck, it is a great way to take away everything but their characters. If you're questing in with it aggressively, hitting stuff like their Fishbone Quills or Lucky Dimes and Sapphire can be particularly funny. Can also take away Be Prepared's off the top of the deck, which is pretty crazy. Next up, we do have 2 Ursula Vanessa, 1/4 for 2, quest for 1, singer 4. So this is going to be a great way to sing any of those songs, 4 cost or less, and the 4 defense is going to be great at getting around pretty much everything in the early game except for Madam M Fox. I don't know if Ruby Amethyst is going to be one of the big top meta decks for this set. I think it's still super competitive, but I don't know how much it's going to be threatening this deck. I think we're maybe even going to see more Amethyst Steel shake out in the meta as it goes along, but we'll see what decks rear their heads come set championships. But Ursula Vanessa gonna sing everything but Whole New World and Grab Your Swords. Then next up in the 2-drop slot, an absolute banger, great way to answer snakes and foxes when you are in that Ruby Amethyst matchup, or really just anything with less than 4 defense, is going to be Mr. Smee, 3/3, quest for 2, and at the end of your turn, if he's exerted and you don't have a captain in play, he is going to take a damage, but there are some ways to take advantage of that with this deck. So Mr. Smee, 3/3 for 2, always fantastic. Then next up in the 2-drop slot, we do have 2 Bare Necessities, 2 cost Song. It's going to let you go ahead and look at your opponent's hand and take away anything that's not a character, which is pretty crazy. Great way to take away those Fishbone Quills. Lucky Dimes, great way to take away any kind of locations that they may have, any removal cards they may have. It is worth noting, typically when you have this card, it's not necessarily something you want to have in your starting hand, or if you do have it in your starting hand, it's not necessarily something you want to play on to, something you want to hang on to into those later turns of the game and then play when those turns come around. This card has some surprise synergy with Smee. It's not something people always think about, but that is going to be Piglet, Pooh Pirate Captain, 2/2 quest for 1, but if you have 2 other characters in play, he's going to go ahead and quest for 3, which is crazy. So a 2 cost, question for 3, and a 2/2 stat line, but also a very relevant thing when it comes to Pooh Pirate Captain. He is a captain, so he is going to keep Smee from taking damage when he's exerted. Always something important to remember. Then next up in the 3-drop slot, we've got 2 of these in here. This card synergizes incredibly well with the Queen. It's worth noting, if you didn't know, with the Big Queen's ability where you're giving an opposing character -4 attack and another character +4 attack, you can target opposing characters with the +4. It doesn't say anywhere on the card that you can't. Obviously, in most circumstances, that's not something that you would want to do, but if you're sitting with the world's greatest criminal mind in your hand, you could potentially turn their character's attack up to 5 if they're even at 1 to begin with, and you can go ahead and banish it straight up with this card, and it's a song. Then next up in the 3-drop slot, another uninkable, 3-cost uninkable, that is Let the Storm Rage On. This is another action song, so any of those 3 or higher cost characters, as well as that Ursula Vanessa, are going to be able to sing this song and deal 2 damage to an opposing character or to one of your characters if you wanted to. Probably won't most of the time, and it's going to let you draw a card. Then next up, also in the 3-drop slot, we do have 3 Strength of a Raging Fire, another great song to get stuff off the board. In an aggro deck, you may potentially have quite a few characters on the board, so being able to use Strength of a Raging Fire when several characters on the board is always fantastic, but you're going to be able to potentially sing it and deal damage equal to the number of characters you have in play to any target character. It's probably not going to wipe out a Tamatoa, but it may take out a Beast, Robin Hood, that kind of thing. And next up in the 3-drop slot, we do have 3-Pete Games Referee, 3/3 for 3, quest for 1. I already think that stat line is pretty good. If he quested for more than 1, this card would probably be broken, honestly. Comes down and is going to prevent your opponent from playing any action cards. So if you're in a situation where your opponent's about to go into a turn where they could play Grab Your Swords, Be Prepared, something like that, or really just any action card that's going to make the game more difficult for you, you can go ahead and throw down Pete and say, no actions for your next turn. It also typically prevents them from getting Pete off the board, which gives him an opportunity to sing some of those 3-cost songs going into your next turn, which can be really good, or to sing Bare Necessities, which cost less than 3, can potentially go stop your opponent from playing an action and then following turn rip that action right out of their hand, which is pretty funny. The only things that are really going to kill him that first turn when he comes into play, is Lady Tremaine if you have a clear board, or Madame Medusa since it's targeted removal and he does have 3 or less attack. Or I guess if they had Ice Block or something else to reduce your attack, they could take it out with Brawl or something like that, but that seems like a big commitment to get rid of a Pete, especially in a color combo where you're not going to be bouncing it. Then next up in the 3-drop slot, we do have the first of our Bodyguard characters, Donald Duck, Musketeer Soldier, 3-cost inkable character, 2/3 stat line, quest for 1. I did choose this character over Simba, even though they're both bodyguards, and Simba is 1 cheaper, purely because of his final ability, Wait for Me. When you play this character, chosen character gets +1 lore this turn, so it can be super aggressive in the early game. If you go like turn 1 Daisy, turn 2 Piglet, turn 3 Donald, you're going to quest for 2 on that second turn, and then you're going to be questing for another 6 on turn 3, and you're going to be at 8 going into turn 4, which is crazy. Great way to continue to keep that lore pressure on is Baloo, our other bodyguard in the deck. 0/3 for 3, this time uninkable, questing for 1, but when this character is banished, you're going to just straight up gain 2 lore, and typically they're not going to be looking at using Hades or Let It Go or something that's going to put him in your inkwell, so in general he is going to be getting banished and you are going to be gaining that lore. Honestly, the worst thing that they can do to him is to bounce him back to your hand, because that's just annoying, and then you're paying 3 to play him twice. Next up, we do have 3 Rapunzels. I could have gone with 4 Rapunzels, but I had a lot of fairly low defense characters, a lot of 3s in this deck. There are definitely some 4s where you can take advantage of Rapunzel, but a lot of 3s, so I did end up going with 3 Rapunzels instead of 4. She is also a little bit further into the game and dies to things like Brawl in the current meta, but she is a 4-cost inkable 1/5 quest for 2, and when you play this character, remove up to 3 damage from target character and then draw 1 card for each damage removed this way. Always a crazy incredible ability. Going to be netting you a lot of card draw in any game. She's super good with Smee, because Smee is going to be potentially putting damage on himself, and then you can go ahead and heal that damage. You have some characters with 4 defense where your opponent may be trying to damage them across multiple turns. You can take advantage of that, heal them with Rapunzel, draw a card, and really punish them for using any kind of card that isn't going to straight up outright get rid of whatever your character is on the board. But Rapunzel, still a fantastic card. I think her price has actually gone up in the current meta into the mid to high 40s as opposed to right around 40 like it was previously. We have 2 Along Came Zeus. I thought about playing more of these because we are on Ursula Vanessa, but I'm not playing more Ursula Vanessas. I think if you went to a 4 Ursula Vanessa build, you would probably want to go to 3 or 4 and then Along Came Zeus, because those 2 cards synergize really well together to keep the board clear. She can sing 4-cost songs. This is a 4-cost song. And when you sing it or play it, it is going to deal 5 damage to chosen character or location. Then a new introduction to the deck. I think this is a 3 of if you're on the Steel Song build, but a 2 of in the aggro build, and that is Prince Naveen, 4-cost, uninkable, quests for 2, which is fantastic in an aggro build. He is a 3/3 stat line, singer 6, so he's going to sing everything in the deck, and even better yet, when you play him, you're going to be able to play a song from your hand for free. So kind of crazy. You can play him and then Whole New World immediately. You don't have to have a character pre-established to sing a song anymore, as long as you're using the ink to get Naveen out. Obviously, you're using up your ink, so if you're playing Naveen into something like Whole New World, you're using up any potential ink that you're going to have to play anything after the Whole New Worlds. Your opponent's technically going to get first shot at the new hand. However, you are on a songs build, so you can potentially have some things that you could sing even if you don't have ink open. And next up, the top end of that shift we were talking about for the Queen is the Queen Commanding Presence. 4/3 for 5, quests for 2, shifts for 2, which is crazy, frankly. Being able to play a turn 2 Whole New World or Grab Your Swords is crazy. It's never destroyed the meta, but it is still very good. Whenever this character quests, chosen opposing character gets -4 attack this turn, and like I mentioned, chosen character gets +4 attack this turn. So you can target your opponent's characters, or you can target one of your own characters to blast away one of your opponent's characters if it is the more relevant strategy. Or, like I mentioned, she can sing every song in the deck. Another guy that can sing every song in the deck is going to be our top end Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood. 3/6 for 5, quests for 2, shifts for 3, and during your turn, whenever he banishes a character, you're going to gain the 2 lore that he would have got from questing anyway, which is crazy. You do have some targeted damage, so if you have something that he can't take out with that 3 attack, it's okay, because you can target some damage and then pop him off with Robin Hood. And if he's banished in a challenge, you're going to draw a card and he's going to replace himself. The only really terrible thing that can happen to Robin Hood is your opponent plays Madame Medusa and just outright removes him immediately, or like be prepared, I guess. But most other things aren't going to take him out in one shot. They may use 2 cards to take him out if it's that relevant to them. But Robin Hood, still fantastic. I think he's still up in the $35–40 range. Then next up, we do have 2 Grab Your Swords. I think 2 is the comfortable place to be. There's a lot of things in the current meta that Grab Your Swords doesn't kill. It is great into certain instances of aggro, or even into Steel Song. It can damage or handle a lot of the characters that are coming down early in Steel Song, but it is going to be a singable song, 5-cost, uninkable. It is going to go ahead and deal 2 damage to each opposing character. Then the last card in the deck, we do have a 4 of Whole New World, 5-cost, uninkable. Each player discards their hand and draws 7 cards, which is crazy. If you haven't seen it, they announced for the World Championship of Lorcana, there's going to be an enchanted Whole New World, which has some beautiful artwork on it. Looks fantastic. I call it enchanted. I don't know if they're technically considering it enchanted, but that's how it looks to me. But that is the deck list. Do you think I made some wrong choices? Would you rather just play the build with Ariel and Cinderella? Is that the right call, or do you think the aggro deck has some real potential? Love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and when you see those toys, video games, and daisy ducks off in the distance, remember, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.